Welcome, everyone, to Rutgers, the voice of college football. I'm here with my fantastic co-host, Gabriel Pickup, and we have a special episode here for you today to talk about the major coaching staff changes at Rutgers and how it's going to affect them going forward into the 2026 season. So, Gabe, start us off here. What's going on with these changes, and what does it mean for Rutgers?
Yeah, Pat Flaherty is no longer going to be the offensive line coach at Rutgers University. Coach Schiano made that clear yesterday. He announced that Flaherty wasn't coming back. And, he's had a very up and down tenure at Rutgers University. He has coached for NFL talent such as Holland Pierce, Gus Zelinskas, Kwabena Asamoah, who made an all-Big Ten team. Gus Zelinskas, he's hovering around that could he get drafted, maybe he won't get drafted territory. So he's had talent. The interior offensive line was pretty solid this year. It was really the outside, the Taj Whites, the Tyler Needhams, the Mashoud Giwas, that weren't necessarily the greatest. And I know that right before the show, John Stone, who is a backup offensive lineman, he announced that he will be entering the transfer portal. Who knows if that's in relation to this move or if he was already going to. But in terms of Pat Flaherty and Jason, what's good? In terms of Pat Flaherty, we had definitely had a worse year this past year for the offensive line. We ranked 125th in sacks allowed with 39 of them. And we ranked 83rd in total rushing yards per game. And we had good rushing performances. It's just, it wasn't at the level that you need to be at in the Big Ten. So Pat Flaherty, I respect his tenure. He's been here since I think it was 2023 he's been here since, and we had 2 good years under him. Just this year wasn't up to the standard.
No, it certainly wasn't. And, part of the concern I have here is in 2024, we hired Rob Smith as the defensive coordinator. In 2024, we hired Colin Farrell as the defensive line coach. And then Zach Sparber, 2024, hired as the co-DC and linebackers coach. Now, we know the defense didn't play well this year, but now we have Pat Flaherty, who's been here since, I believe, 2022, who was coaching the O-line. So we got 4 coaches gone, okay? 4 coaches hired by Coach Schiano. And, where am I going with this? I'm going with this by saying, at some point, you got to ask the head coach, you hired these guys, and 1 year later, they were gone. So what was your judgment in thinking they were good hires in the first place? Because the way that this season went on defense, the defense was atrocious, okay? Absolutely atrocious. And now you're firing 3 coaches. Okay, well, you hired them. And that defense was one of the worst I've seen in Rutgers history. So at some point, you know what? As much as I respect Coach Schiano, Coach, this falls at your doorstep too. And unless Rutgers goes on some type of upward trajectory, I'm not happy with the direction of this program. And unlike other shows, all right, I'm not going to sugarcoat. I'm going to tell it like it is. Because I love Rutgers and I want us to be competitive in the Big Ten. I think this is as bad of a reflection on Coach Schiano as it is over the Jason, you make a good point that we shouldn't be too critical about Flaherty. And if you notice, I haven't been critical of any of these 4 coaches in what I just said. What I have a problem with is that you're hiring 3 coaches, and 1 year later, all 3 coaches are gone. Well, what were you thinking when you first hired them? I mean, and
we didn't have too many options. That's what the deal was. Rob Smith and Zach Sparber weren't the sexiest options. And that's why Rob Smith wasn't hired as the sole defensive coordinator. That's why he needed a co-defensive coordinator, because he couldn't be trusted to run the unit on his own. Sure, he called plays at first, but he had a lot of confiding in Sparber, in Farrell, in Coach Schiano. So it wasn't all on Rob Smith because his role wasn't solely the defensive coordinator. It was sort of a committee effort on defense, one that going into the year, we had a feeling couldn't be trusted. But with all the talent that got transferred in, you would have thought that the defense would have been a part of our identity, let alone present. And It simply wasn't. With that being said, not every Coach Shiano hire has been bad. Coach Kirk Sieroka, the offensive coordinator, excellent. Quarterbacks coach, excellent. Running backs coach, solid. Pat Flaherty, his tenure at Rutgers, even with a subpar year this past year, it was still a good tenure for Rutgers University. And he's worked closely with Shiano. They've been very close in the past. So to me, this firing shows Shiano putting his ego aside, his personal relationships aside, and saying, I got to do what's best for the program.
Well, I think Flaherty has done a reasonably good job, and certainly I'm not going to criticize him. And I'm not going to criticize Rob Smith or Colin Farrell either, and I'm not going to criticize Zach Sparber. In fact, what just happened? Mike Elko of Texas A&M is hiring Zach Sparber to their defensive staff before the
You're
playoffs.
kidding.
No. Mike Elko of playoff-bound Texas A&M Aggies hiring Zach Sparber, adding Zach to the defensive staff at A&M before the playoffs. And that tells me one thing. It tells me Zach Sparber is a pretty damn good coach. He must be pretty good if Mike Elko's hired him. And the same is probably true of Colin Farrell. And look, Rob Smith got his share of criticism, but the fact that A&M is hiring him and the fact that Flaherty has done a reasonably good job during his tenure, it suggests to me, were these guys, coaches, put in a position to be successful? What was going on? Because, I do remember Coach Shiano taking over the defense midway through the season or saying he was going to have a more active role. And look, I hate to be the one to offer the criticism because I love Rutgers and I have a lot of respect for Coach Shiano, but the product on the field is not good. And when I see three coaches on the defense going and one of them getting hired by A&M before the playoffs, it suggests to me, well, what happened that they were not in a position to be successful this year and only lasted a year? Help me out here, Gabe. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I didn't know that Sparber got hired by A&M. They did work together at Duke, apparently. And Sparber does have a very long background coaching, despite him being on the younger side for coaches. He was also a linebackers coach at JMU. And it's interesting that we have this connection with JMU. But and they're going to be in the playoffs too. So it's kind of surprising that JMU didn't reach back out to him before Texas A&M did. I'm very intrigued. I can't find what position coach he'll be exactly at Texas A&M. I just know that him and Mike Elko work together at Duke.
Right.
That's good for him. I don't think anyone's hiring Rob Smith anytime soon.
Well, let's look at Rob Smith, where he came from. Okay.
Well, he's been at Rutgers already. Didn't work out the first time. And then he worked for Shiano, I believe, on the Buccaneers too.
Yeah, he worked with Shiano on Buccaneers. Now, he was, he was defensive coordinator and D-backs coach for Arkansas from 2014 to 16. Same position at Minnesota from 17 to 18. He was an analyst. I'm talking now about Rob Smith, analyst at A&M in 2019. And the guy was also, he started out as a graduate assistant at Iowa. So the guy's got a pretty damn good pedigree. So when I look at this, what I'm seeing is, you're firing these coaches, but how bad are these coaches? It seems to me like the problem was the players you had on the field. And, I mean, look, Flaherty is a good coach. Rob Smith comes from big-time schools. Zach Sparber's going to A&M. So were these coaches in a position to be successful? No, because I think the player evaluations we got for our transfers wasn't very good.
Oh, I got breaking news for you.
All right, please go ahead.
So are you aware of what the John Cornish Trophy is?
No.
The award is given to the most outstanding Canadian player in college football.
We love our Canadians. Who got the award?
Antoine Raymond.
Oh, wow. Congratulations to Antoine Raymond.
Best Canadian in college football right there.
Well, I'll tell you, that's well-deserved. Antoine Raymond had a fantastic year. He gained significant yardage even when the O-line didn't block for him, and he was a very violent, tough runner. Reminded me of Kyle Monangai.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Antoine Raymond.
He was really good at running up the middle for the lineman that did clear up for him, Gus Zawinskis. Shout out to all of our Canadian viewers, Canadian Rutgers fans. it's an interesting mix, but I'm sure there's some out there. Yeah, Antoine Raymond definitely had a great year, and he got better as the year progressed too. So big shout out to Antoine Raymond. Let's hope he can win that award again next year back in Scarlet Red, though, because he's one of those players, just like KJ Duff, Ian Strong, that we don't know if they're going to be back in Scarlet Red next year. They're going to get a lot of looks from other programs, but the running back position is one that Rutgers has always been good at. It's one of the rare selling points. That and wide receiver. Those are the two selling points for Rutgers on the offensive side of the football. If you're playing at Rutgers and your wide receiver one, your RB1, you're going to be heavily involved, and it's going to translate to the NFL. So that's my pitch to Antoine Raymond, and I believe that he, unbiased, should stay here, and he can win this award again next year.
Yeah, you raise a great point, and it kind of brings me to the next issue, which is when we look ahead towards next year. I think when I look at it, I see that we're going to have a defense that's going to have a lot of new players, but I'm not sure if they're going to be good players. We're losing what were, I guess you could say, the best players on the defense in Eric O'Neill, for example. So I'm not sure how is the defense going to improve with the new coach that we have, or new coaches. And on offense, my concern is we're going to have a quarterback, A.J. Sarace, who is undoubtedly talented, but it's going to be his first year starting in the Big Ten. And is KJ going to stay? Is Ian going to go into the draft? And is Antoine going to stay? I would guess that Antoine is going to stay because he's in a great position. He's the starting running back at Rutgers. He's had great success. NFL scouts are already looking at him. Why transfer and disrupt your career at this point and go to a new program and learn a new offensive system? I think he stays. I think that Ian goes to the NFL, and I think that KJ is going to be looking at the transfer market because I think that he's going to be making some money. And I think that it's very attractive to be part of an offense, for example, in the SEC under Lane Kiffin or under Kalen DeBoer, or dare I say, under Dan Lanning at Oregon. So I see the offense being without one of our two-star receivers and Antoine coming back. So what does that mean for our offense? Well, our offense was really good this year. But at this point, I don't see the offense necessarily being an upgrade from last year. In case I see, and as such, I see a repeat of last season. And that's my broader point, which I've said like a broken record and probably pissed people off. But it's like, I don't see Rutgers getting any better. And remember, I said 26 was going to be the magical season. So I hate to be pessimistic because I support Rutgers, but I'm not happy with the state of the program, Gabe. And tell me where I'm going wrong here.
The only thing that you're not thinking about is the schedule. You're right that we're going to be supposedly, as it's looking, having less talent. We just never know how the portal's going to go. And KJ, if you see this, KD, if you see this, don't listen to it. But I believe that Adam is right, that Raymond is going to stay, Ian's going to declare, and KJ is going to leave. But in terms of the rest of the team, it's about the staff and the defense. Like what we lose in the offense, we surely can't get worse than the defense. We're going to have a new defense, at least, Jabome is probably going to stay. But outside of Jabome, I don't see them really being consistently the same as last year. And it's going to be nice having a full offseason where Jabome knows that he's middle linebacker one. It's going to give him more time to prep as the unofficial team captain. It does kind of suck that Jordan Walker is transferring just because of what he meant to the program. But you're right that we need to be active in the portal. We need to consider going after a new quarterback. I know that A.J. Sarace is talented. He's made that clear in the spring game. He made it clear against Norfolk State. He's played in Big Ten games, so if he were to be quarterback one, it wouldn't be from nothing, but it certainly wouldn't be from any establishing point where we're comfortable with him as quarterback one. That's the issue, is I believe that we need an established quarterback one, and Aiden Childs is the perfect guy for that. Not to mention Ethan. It's very close. It's very close in pronunciation. Maybe he can play like Ethan out there. I'm not saying that Childs is the future of our program, but I think that for 1 year he could be a great transition quarterback between Ethan and AJ Surace.
I think you make a great point. And look, I want to be clear. I know, the Rutgers players, parents, coaches who may see this show. I know you probably hate me for the negativity and the criticism, but look, I'm just telling it like it is, and I really care about the program and want it to be successful. So don't think it's coming from a place of hate. It's coming from a place of passion. I love Rutgers football, and
Hey, if you want to come on here and bash Adam, be our guests.
yeah, I mean, you feel free, and I'll sit here and I will listen. But I don't think I'm doing you any service if I just sit here and look through rose-colored glasses about the season. I mean, I think you deserve someone who you might not like, but who's going to tell it like it is. And so I hope that that's understood. And Jason O says, "I'm not a broken record. I'm more like a Vine clip from the 2010." What does that mean, Gabe?
I think he's saying that you're out of touch, that you only have 6-second clips, and I think that's all I got.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe he's right, and maybe I'm wrong. But what I saw this year, what I saw last year, was like a mirror image of each other. There was no improvement,
Yeah.
and we talk about the portal, and Aiden Childs would be a fantastic get. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's shown great potential. I think 10 touchdowns to 4 interceptions at Michigan State. We're not going to get Dylan Raiola, but I think we got to shoot for the stars at some point. And if we have the NIL money to back it up, we should go for it, because I'm tired of getting transfers from Monmouth. I'm tired of getting transfers from smaller schools that when they come into the Big Ten, it's just the step up in competition is too much. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that it's not going to happen because he's way out of our price range. But man, Drew Mestemaker would be the perfect quarterback for Rutgers. He's a freshman. He led the FBS in passing yards. He's from a G5 school that didn't make the playoffs, but still had a really good year. So slightly under the radar, but he just had too good of a year statistically for a bigger program not to go after him. Hell, I think Indiana should go after him. I mean, he is that good. I know that he didn't play in a Power 4 conference, let alone the Big Ten, but Drew Mestemaker is, in my opinion, he is that guy. He is super freaking talented. He's not a college football household name like a Raiola or a Lagway, so he wouldn't demand that when it comes to NIL, but just based on performance, he is the perfect college football quarterback, in my opinion, and he could do what Ethan did, but be possibly better by his senior year. But it's just a dream. A man can dream just because we don't have a QB1 yet. And he is my dream quarterback for Rutgers University. But the more realistic option, the option that makes more sense is Aiden Childs. And if we fall back to AJ Surace next year, that's great too, because he'll be a sophomore. It's a low risk, high reward situation. And if that doesn't work, I know we have the what's his name? The quarterback from Germantown Academy coming in too, and he could be good. I think he's a 3-star. And so we have options, but it's like tiers of expectations. I would put Drew Mestemaker atop of the list. Dylan Raiola, aside from money, makes perfect sense just because New Jersey, you love the limelight. New Jersey will give you the limelight because a lot of Rutgers fans are from New York. And New York is the media capital of the world. And also, it just makes sense because he's actually a good quarterback. No matter how much I've bashed him in the past, it's all just been friendly banter. And because of the Mahomes agenda, too. So I would put Mestemaker as my number 1 guy. Dylan Raiola as my number 2 guy. Aiden Childs as my number 3 guy. AJ Surace, number 4. And anything after that, I would be lying if I didn't say I would be concerned about our quarterback situation after that.
Yeah, great points. And look, I'll just say a couple things. Jason says stop bashing Monmouth, by the way. I am not bashing Monmouth. They have a good program, and like you said, they have punched way above their weight, and I applaud them for that. But we're in the Big Ten, and I do not believe that the majority of players that we will get from those schools might or will be competitive against the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Oregons, the USCs, the Penn States. That's my only point. It's not to insult Monmouth. I certainly don't intend to do that, and certainly respect them. The other thing I'll say is this. When you have a team like Rutgers, in my opinion, where, they're not a bad team, but they're mediocre and they're struggling in the Big Ten, what position player can make a big difference all by himself? That's the quarterback. And I'm not saying A.J. Surace is not the guy. I don't know. I have not seen him play enough. He may very well be an outstanding quarterback for Rutgers. But when I say Rutgers needs to improve, it starts with a dynamic quarterback to complement Antoine Raymond. And if Mestamaker is in the portal, which he is,
he intends to be. He's not quite there yet.
Then let's throw as much money as humanly possible to get him. He's coming from North Texas. All right. Let's go all in on Mestamaker.
We have a history of getting top transfers from North Texas, man.
Yes, and we got Ethan from Minnesota. I mean, why not say, look, this offense needs an elite quarterback, and let's have a competition with Mestamaker and A.J. Surace. So give him more money than any other school will give him.
I mean, here's the thing. If we do get Mestamaker, A.J. Surace is as good as gone, because Mestamaker is coming off a freshman year of doing his numbers.
Well, I mean, I don't think we should be in a position where we're worried about people transferring. We're concerned about getting the best quarterbacks we can on the roster and having a healthy competition
I agree.
for the job. So
I think that what we should do is, if we're going to get the quarterbacks that I put in the top three, the Drew Mestamaker, the Dylan Raiola, or Aiden Childs, if we do that, then we have to commit to recruiting KJ Duff to stay another year. And if we can't get any of those three, then I say just commit to keeping Antoine Raymond, keep AJ Surace, make him quarterback one, and let Ben Black be wide receiver one. He had some impressive games last year whenever his name was called. He just finished his sophomore season, and he has 2 more years of eligibility. Why not let him be wide receiver one for a year if he can have good catches that we've seen, play adjacently to DT Sheffield sort of when he was wide receiver 3 instead of Sheffield because Ian Strong would be out or whatever, or garbage time minutes. But Ben Black looked too good to be wide receiver 4 last year.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think, look, when I think of KJ Duff and the offense, what incentive does KJ Duff have to transfer? He is already on the radar for, I think, a fairly high NFL draft pick. So you have stability at Rutgers. You're going to be the number 1 wide receiver. You're going to get your catches. You're going to show the NFL scouts how good you are, and you're going to probably increase your draft stock. So KJ, if you go for, let's say more money to a more elite program, there's no guarantee that you are going to have the same type of success that you're going to have at Rutgers, because you're going to be learning a new offensive system under a new coach, and you're going to be in a group of really elite wide receivers yourself. So there is a risk to transferring that I think outweighs the incentive to do so for Duff. Ian Strong is going to do what Ian Strong is going to do. I think he's going to go to the draft. But Ben Black, like you said, I think absolutely. I think he should be the number 2 receiver.
Yeah.
And then with Antoine Raymond, and if we had, Mestamaker or AJ Surace, whoever's better, that's all we care about, then we can have a formidable offense if our offensive line is dramatically improved. And that's where we need to go into the portal on both ends of the line, because that's where we got killed in the trenches.
Yeah, and Tom, I agree. I don't think that now I don't want to drive KJ away from Rutgers University. I would love for him to be a Rutgers alum, one of the best Rutgers players of all time when it's all said and done. But I don't think his agent is telling him that a better school and more money is worse than staying at Rutgers.
Well, that's what Tom 4733 is saying. And all I'm saying is that, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Yeah, you may get, let's say you get a million and a half. I'm not sure what the numbers are. But you are going to be taking a risk by going into, onto a new team with a much more competitive wide receiver room in a new offensive system in a league that's just as competitive, if not more, than the Big Ten, which is the SEC. So KJ's got to look at this long term. I mean, are you going to be the same star at an LSU or at an Ole Miss or at an Alabama?
What about Texas?
Well, I mean, Isaiah Bond went to Texas, and what happened to him?
He's in the league now.
He's in the league now, yes, but he was elite at Alabama. He was not elite at Texas. And I'm just saying that you're talking about a kid's career here. His career in the NFL could be 10, on the long side, maybe 12, 15 years. Do you want to take the risk in your last year of going to an Ohio State or a similar school where you're going to be around similar talents and maybe not get as many touches, and you're going to be facing consistently more elite competition? It's a risk is all I'm saying.
It's a risk for sure. But would you rather do that, and when you have a bad game, it still translates to a win, or have a game like Ian Strong had against Oregon and Ohio State, a combined 2 catches for 15 yards, despite the fact that for a lot of the season, he was our wide receiver 1. He had a hat trick touchdown game, and he was Nathan's number 1 option for the first 8 weeks of the year. And to me, I don't see why he wouldn't go for the former over the latter.
So you would say he would be incentivized to leave?
I think so. And I want him to stay 100%. And he means a lot to Rutgers University, to the fans. His father is enthusiastic about the program. And by the way, we would still love to have KD on at some point, KJ, maybe both of them at the same time. That would be sick. Our viewers would love it too. But I just don't see from an unbiased perspective why he wouldn't leave, unless his heart is just that damn committed to Rutgers, which if that's the case, you throw him however many pennies you can throw him while still affording to be a contender for other players in the portal.
Well, I think that one of the things, I think KJ Duff is going to be thinking about what's best for KJ Duff. And, I think he has to look at and ask one question. Wherever I play next year, is it going to improve my NFL draft stock? And all I'm saying is that while he'll certainly get more money, it's a risk going to a school like Texas, Alabama, LSU, Ohio State. It is a risk because you are in a quarterback room that is elite. And I cannot say
it was elite.
Or that, if he goes to one of those schools, I cannot say with any degree of confidence that he's going to be wide receiver 1 and maybe even at wide receiver 2. And if that happens,
I think if he leaves, he's making sure he's wide receiver 2.
Well, it's all going to determine what he does on the field. He can't have certainty about that before he gets on the field and plays. And if he doesn't perform as well, his draft stock is going to dive. So there's some uncertainty to that. So then what's the answer? Maybe he goes to another school that's not on that elite level, but that gives him more money. But I think as far as money talking in the short term, that's a consideration. But I think him getting in the league and being a productive long-term contributor, I don't think he risks anything by staying at Rutgers. I think he risks something by going to another program.
Yeah, I get that. I don't think that he would go anywhere without them giving him a verbal commitment that going into camp he's wide receiver 1 or 2, though.
Well, they can say that, and he could be wide receiver 1, but if he doesn't perform well on the field, and what we saw against Ohio State and Oregon wasn't impressive. Now, as for Ian Strong, I could be wrong here. I think Ian Strong should stay another year. He's a great wide receiver, but I think he needs one more year to develop, and I think he could potentially be a late first round, early second round draft choice. I think he's going out too early, but from what you've said and from what I've read, he is so intent on getting to the league that, this reminds me a little bit of Mark Sanchez at USC. When Mark Sanchez in his junior year had a very good year, and Pete Carroll said, I know you want to go to the league, but you're not ready. And he just went anyway. And guess what happened? I just don't think Strong is ready yet. And I would not go to the league if I knew I was going to be a third or fourth round pick. I would say, you know what? Let me stay at Rutgers one more year and up my draft stock. But
he's projected round 2, and most round 2 wide receivers are in that top 3 wide receivers depth chart in the NFL by the end of the year. I mentioned the draft from last year and how all those wide receivers have turned out. He's projected around pick 42 per the latest PFF mock draft, or I guess draft evaluation. It's technically not a mock draft. But I think that he should leave just because of the reasons that you said about KJ Duff. That's why I think that Ian Strong should leave for the NFL. It's his entire goal. And if you're so close to your goal, unless you come from a Manning family or something like that, you don't ditch your goal to possibly go from a round 2, round 3 pick to a round 1 pick, or slip to 7 or undrafted. I mean, Eric O'Neal coming into this year was a top 100 prospect. He was a top 50 in his class, and now he's projected undrafted. And I know that Ian Strong, this offense, it can't really be any worse next year than the defense was this year, but it's just such an anomaly to be that high in the draft board and be a Rutgers product. I talked about how few first round picks we've had, let alone how few second round picks we've had, let alone first round picks. It doesn't happen. The highest draft pick we had was Anthony Davis, pick 11, pick 10. And outside of that year, that was the only year we've had a first-round draft pick, in 2010, I believe it was, and we had 2 of them. But outside of that, we've had like 3 second-round picks, 1 or 2 third-round picks, and that's it. So Ian Strong would have to be all-time special next year if he were to stay at Rutgers. But if Ian Strong does stay at Rutgers, I think there's no way KJ Duff leaves. I think that would be a great selling point for KJ Duff to stay. And with Jason saying that Antoine Raymond is content here, apparently content here, I agree. I think that Raymond is clearly the wide receiver, clearly the running back 1. And I think that's why CJ Campbell opted to transfer, because he came here to be running back 1. Antoine Raymond had a hell of a year, and CJ got hurt, unfortunately, has another year of eligibility, but he's not going to be running back 1 here. So I think the selling point for KJ to stay is if Ian Strong does stay. I just don't think that he will stay, nor do I think he should stay, because of Rutgers. The talent translates well to the NFL, but the draft status doesn't always. And I think you got to take it while you have it.
Yeah, my thought is on Ian Strong. I do not believe that Ian Strong is going to be a second-round pick. I think he would be picked in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. And I think that if that's what your evaluation is, and I suspect that's what it will be, you have a chance to come back to Rutgers and raise that draft stock, possibly substantially, especially when you have a KJ Duff on the roster, so who's going to complement you and who's going to, and that's going to allow you to really have a year that impresses NFL scouts. I just don't think Strong is going to go very high. And so, yeah, you want to reach your goal of getting to the NFL, but you want to put yourself in a position where you're valued when you are drafted. And as far as Eric O'Neal goes, you made a great point that I think is applicable to KJ Duff. O'Neal was a top 100 prospect at James Madison, comes here, and now he's a UDFA, apparently. Okay.
The thing is, KJ Duff's already doing this against elite competition.
Well, what if KJ Duff does the same thing, goes to an LSU or an Alabama or an Ohio State, and has a similar year to an Eric O'Neal where he underperforms? That's all I'm saying. There's a risk that he can lose more by leaving than he could gain by staying.
Yeah, it's a risk. I just don't think it's the same risk. And I don't see a world where Ian Strong falls to round 5. We already went over the 2 mock drafts from ESPN and PFF. Both have him projected in the 2nd round. There's another one here by Bucks Wire from yesterday where Ian Strong is projected 46 to the Ravens. It just seems like he's hovering around that 2nd round range. So the furthest I see him slipping is to late round 3.
Well, he runs a 4.640, and that to me
He's physical.
is an issue.
He's not supposed to be fast. I mean, you need to be quick off the jump, but he's a route runner. He's a separation artist. You notice when Ian Strong was wide receiver 1, I mentioned it all year that KJ Duff was making the most impressive catches, but oftentimes that's because he had to. What Ian Strong was best at was creating separation off the unpredictability, the pivoting, the fast jump from the line of scrimmage, the route running. I think that's what his talent was. It wasn't necessarily the Odell Beckham catches, the Garrett Wilson catches. It was the KJ Duff catch against Penn State. It was the route running and separation ability.
And those are valid points, but based on his performance this year, which was good, I mean, he was injured, based upon the fact that, how did our receivers do against Ohio State and Oregon? I don't know if Strong was injured for one of those games, but I just think he needs another year. I'm going to predict he goes in the 4th or 5th round. And I like him as a receiver. I mean, he is very talented, and I really hope for his success and really want him to be successful. But I think that they have something going on at Rutgers right now where if you have those two wide receivers with Antoine Raymond in the backfield and a very capable quarterback, you're going to have balance on Rutgers. And if you have an improved offensive line, those two receivers are going to have a lot of opportunities to improve their draft stock at Rutgers. And that's why I'm saying going for the money and going to a more elite program doesn't guarantee you long-term success. And there's something to be said for looking at what you have now and not thinking the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah, I think that if Ian Strong does declare, though, Kyle Monangai has proven that you can be a late-round pick out of Rutgers, still make a team, and still have an immediate impact. And I think Ian Strong, if he were to do that and say he goes to a team like the Buccaneers, who have a fantastic young wide receiver in Emeka Egbuka, but Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both on the decline, he could be a wide receiver 2 there. He could be a wide receiver 2 for the Panthers. He could be a wide receiver 2 for the Raiders, for whoever, for I guess the Ravens, because Hopkins isn't going to be there next year most likely. I think that Ian Strong, by the end of next year, could legitimately be a wide receiver 2 for a number of teams. So even if he isn't a day 2 pick, say he is a day 3 pick, I think that Ian Strong is an NFL talent. Maybe he won't be a talent that can separate from, Trayvon Diggs, a Sauce Gardner, whoever, Pat Surtain. But I think that he could beat a Riley Moss. He could beat a Mike Carter II. And he could have those games where he does get like the 6 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown or 2. He will be an impact player if he does declare, even if he's not a day 1 or day 2 guy. So I know that the money is a factor, and he would make more money probably staying at Rutgers versus being a day 3 pick. But I still think that, and yeah, Jason, it's funny that you say that because we landed the same point there. But I still think that long term, he's mentally able to be an NFL rookie next year and have a bad game or 2 and bounce back. We saw it with Rutgers this year. He had those 2 bad games and bounced back both times. So I do have faith that Ian Strong not only would be okay being an NFL player next year, but that he should. But I think we both make great points. I mean, this is literally like the angel and the devil talking on your shoulder if you're Ian Strong. And, it's up to him to figure out which one is the angel.
Well, yeah, and I think that that's one of the benefits of this show is that if to the extent that the players watch it, they're hearing different opinions, and they're hearing honest opinions. I mean, I don't necessarily agree, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, with his 40 time and with what I've seen, what I see him as potentially being a contributor in the NFL, but not yet. And I am just not in favor of players going into the draft when their evaluation is like 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, because
second.
Yeah, well, his evaluation is second round. I would like to see that replicated as we get closer to the draft because I'm not so sure about that. But even second round, I mean, okay, but if there's a chance you're going to get drafted third round, fourth round, fifth round, first of all, you're not going to get a lucrative NFL contract, and you may not even make the damn roster. So if you're in that position, your longevity in the NFL is really seriously questionable. So why not come back, have one more year, and try to get that draft stock up?
Well, I got one last point for this argument. Your ideal situation next year, I'm assuming, is we still have Raymond, still have Duff, and still have Strong, correct?
Correct.
So you want Strong to come back, improve his numbers, possibly be a first-round draft pick, but you want KJ Duff to be back and solidify himself as the wide receiver one. How would Ian Strong benefit from that?
Because you have two elite wide receivers, like you have Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. They're still going to get a substantial amount of touches. And when you have two elite receivers like that, it puts a lot of pressure on the defense that will enable them to have many opportunities to get catches and touchdowns. That's why I said they complement each other. It's kind of like having Aaron Judge number 3 in the order or number 2 in the order. You know what that does for the batter behind them? Having Aaron Judge behind you. You know what that does for the batter in front of them is that they're going to see a lot more fastballs, and I think and they're going to do well. So I think they will complement each other because the defenses are not going to be able to just key on one of them. They're going to have a lot of pressure on them to be able to cover both of them, and they both will excel under that system. When you have a running back like Antoine Smith that is going to keep the defense honest and make certain teams stack the box. So I think my point is that although Rutgers may not be a good program for everyone, at this stage in their careers, Rutgers is a good place for both of them vis-a-vis their standing in the NFL draft.
Sure. And it's just going to be interesting if he does stay, which I don't think he will stay, but if he does stay, instead of being that 1A, 1B, he would be wide receiver 2, I predict, if he does stay. So that would be interesting because Carnell Tate, he is a touchdown machine, whereas Jeremiah Smith is a reception getter. With this team, Ian Strong was the reception getter to start out. He was the do-it-all receiver. And then KJ Duff started making really nice catches. And, Ian Strong had one game where he had a hat trick for touchdowns. He only had 2 touchdowns the rest of the year combined. So he would have to be more of an end zone threat, I predict, if he were to stay and be wide receiver 2. That's the only way he could maintain his draft status or get it better. I don't think that you're going to get 2 wide receivers from Rutgers University being day one draft picks. Like, I know that we're shooting for the stars here, but it does sound a little silly.
No, but I think they both could be second-round draft picks. And I do believe, and I'm just guessing here, that KJ Duff's decision on whether to stay or go is going to be based, at least in small part, on who's on that roster. And if you have KJ, Ian, and Ben Black, you've got a great receiving core, and you have a running back that is going to force defenses to have to stop the run. So it's going to force a lot of defenses into man coverage. And when you have those 2 receivers, I think they could have a banner year. I guess our disagreement comes down to where you think he's going to get drafted. And I think that I just see Strong as a third or fourth round pick, and I would advise him as a coach, if that's the case. It ain't worth it, man. It ain't worth it. You have more value than that, and you're making money at Rutgers already. So we're going to give you more money. And if you have a good year, which you will, you're going to get more money when you're drafted. But, hey, I don't know how they think.
What if Ben Black emerges, though?
Well, look, these guys want to go to the NFL, right? So they can't be afraid of competition. If they're not going to excel at Rutgers, they're not going to excel in the NFL. So, it's like you can't avoid that. And that's kind of what I was saying with KJ transferring. What if he transfers to LSU? Lane Kiffin, wonderful. But what if he doesn't shine like he did like Eric O'Neal didn't shine at Rutgers like he did at James Madison. There is a risk to that, and the money that he's going to get from LSU is not worth the money that he would otherwise make over a 5, 7, 10-year career in the NFL if he increased his draft stock. But again, I could be wrong, so it's just my opinion, and I'm sure they know better than I do, but that's just my sense from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah, I get it. We'll have to see how this plays out. It's going to be an interesting 2 weeks because January 2nd is when the portal opens. And we're going to be having a lot more than one show a week when January 2nd comes around. It's going to be a little chaotic.
Yeah, and you know something, Gabe? One thing I want to say is I wish the reporters would ask Coach Schiano these questions. When I see the questions they ask him in these press conferences, it's like ask him the questions that matter, that people are actually thinking about. So I would love to have them on the show to shed some insight into this. And Jason O says LSU, Bama, Texas don't need KJ the way that Rutgers does, nor would any of them feature him in the way Rutgers will. He is 100% correct. And that's my argument. But hey, look,
it's a solid argument. Do you want the numbers, the probable projection to skyrocket in the NFL, or do you want more money and more team success?
And I guess, Gabe, what this discussion highlights, to kind of wrap it up, is that there are some pieces there that Rutgers has that can lead to a much better season next year. And Jason O pointed out that before last year, they had 2 7-win seasons. So if the pieces fall into place, we can have a very formidable offense, maybe even better than last year. And I suspect the defense will be better because it just has to. So the question is, how is this going to play out? And that goes back to what you said. Once the portal opens up on January 2nd, you're going to see us a lot on here. Always going to see us every week on Mondays, but there'll be some breaking news. And as always, a great discussion.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued what route we choose. I wouldn't mind a transition year if it has to be, where Ben Black is wide receiver 1 or 2. Raymond has another great year, and we develop AJ Surace. But I think if you're going to go for an upgrade at one position, you need to maintain your talent and try to improve. It's got to be one or the other. I mean, we also did start RNIL, so I think the goal would be to be in the discussion for someone like a Raiola or a Mestamaker or a Lagway, whatever it may be, even if we don't land someone, to just be in the discussion and be down to the Final Four or whatever it may be for decision-making. So I don't think it would be the AJ Surace QB1, Ben Black wide receiver 1, Jashawn Benjamin running back 1. I don't think we're seeing that next year. I think we're shooting for the stars. But if worst comes to worst, I don't mind the homegrown talent that we do have on this roster currently. We just need to maintain it, and that's how you get better, is maintaining the talent you do have while trying to plug in holes that you lose via the NFL draft, or if players do want to transfer.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's why, next year it's hard to tell how it's going to go, but the pieces are there. And we're going to need these key players to stay, not just for the team, but in my opinion, for their own development. And I think when you talk about quarterbacks like Lagway.
Oh, also, another reason why Strong might declare is I mentioned Ben Black having possibly a breakout year. We also have 4-star Desir Carter. That's the only position that is a 4-star coming in next year at wide receiver.
Okay. Well, so I guess the future is potentially bright, but there's so many moving pieces and we don't know how it's going to go. But one thing I do know is that they have to look at this not just from a player level. I think Coach Schiano needs to hire a great quarterbacks coach so that when you talk about Mestamaker or Lagway or Aiden Childs, you sell them not just on the money, but you sell them on development so that they can feel confident that by going to Rutgers, they're going to be in the NFL and going to be successful. So I'm looking to see who's going to be the quarterbacks coach. Can we get a quarterback whisperer at Rutgers?
Yeah. And if we're talking about KJ Duff, LSU being an option, it's funny because, and a little ironic if that's the case, because Lane Kiffin really wants DJ Lagway. And what did I say all of last year? Athan is better than DJ Lagway. KJ, do you want to downgrade at quarterback, man?
You were right and I was wrong. And you were right by a lot. But
we were both right about stuff. You were right. You were right to be a little pessimistic going into the year.
Yeah, I know. It's just my reputation probably among Rutgers players and coaches is like, oh, that guy. Well, you know what?
Fan favorite, I don't think. But you're not. I don't think they hate you though. How can you hate someone who is never wrong just early?
Well, I'm not. It's not like I sit here and criticize them all the time, but I try to be balanced and honest. And I think if you're going to hear from someone that's going to maybe offer some useful opinions, they've got to be honest. And maybe they're wrong, maybe they're not, but certainly they shouldn't be construed as hostility towards the program. And
yeah,
you know, I've lived in the South for the last about 14 years in Alabama, in Georgia, and in Louisiana. And I know a fair good bit about LSU football. And KJ Duff fits the prototype of an LSU wide receiver. And I suspect.
Wipe that from the record.
What did you say?
I'm wiping that from the record.
I mean, he does. But again, like the risks I stated before, I don't think it's necessarily the most prudent move. But we shall see. And as always, it's always great having conversations with you, Gabe, because you tell it like it is too, and you hear different opinions. And I think that is the whole point.
We're two sides of the same coin. It's like in politics, you know, everyone wants the country to be better. They just disagree on how to do it. At least with us, we can have civil conversations and come to mutual agreements.
Yeah, and you know what? The truth is usually somewhere in the middle. So I'm sure that you're certainly right, and I'm wrong in some respects. And I think together, though, the combination produces something that resembles truth. So with that, you know, first of all, thanks to Jason O and everyone else for being here. We are going to be here again Monday evening at 7 p.m. And we may be here before and more frequently as news develops. But thanks all for your comment. And Gabe, thanks as always for the great commentary. Go Scarlet Knights, and we'll see you all in a few days.
Go Scarlet Knights.